Oh yeah, here we go. Back for another wild and wacky episode of the Wormhole Manifest Podcast with your host, me, Wormhole Matt, also known as Wormhole 42 on Twitch and YouTube or wherever you can find videos and stuff of my gaming stuff, but not that I do that much anyway, but do a good bit of it here and there and occasionally, just kind of like this episode or like this podcast. It seems to be so random nowadays, and I kind of want to go over a little bit why that's been. This episode you're about to listen to, or that you started listening to already, is one recorded, I guess, many months ago, back in like September, maybe even August of 2023. Now it's December. We're like a couple weeks away from Christmas already, and it's just like the time is just flying by. Like, and I can't say that it's necessarily my ADHD or what, or even burnout that's been keeping me from editing these episodes so that I can drop them for you all. I have several episodes recorded. I have this discussion coming up you're about to listen to with Steven from DreamHerbally, and I've got another one after that I recorded again with my friend Rian from the Reincarnation podcast, talking about lots of different stuff. I think we touch mainly on that episode about microdosing psychedelics. So that'll be coming up soon. I don't know if it's going to get out before Christmas or not. This one I'm trying to just push to get it out to you all because it's been sitting and it's been kind of weighing heavily on me because I have been having a lot of weird and wild crazy dreams lately, and with the tools that I've learned from Steven, it really helps to have these tools. And if you're a person out there who has a lot of dreams, a lot of disturbing dreams, or from things like PTSD or CPTSD or past trauma, things like that, dream work really works. It can really help you kind of figure out what is going on in your life, or with the energy and everything around you that you may need to deal with. So yeah, a little bit about what's been going on. I'll just quickly touch on that. And basically we had the first holidays, or the set of holidays. We had Halloween back in October, and that was fun. Kids do their own things and stuff now, and because they're all old. Thanksgiving had come and gone. That was, obviously not too long ago, a couple weeks back in November. I also had an Extra Life for Kids charity video game live streaming marathon thing that I did. I did part of it yet again, not the full 24 hours like you're, I guess, supposed to, or you can kind of divvy it up, but it's up to the person what they want to do. I was part of the team. Shout out to the Digicast team, formerly known as the JSS, and they combined with the tiny bit that I earned. I think came close to meeting the goal. So that's good. We're trying to help kids, help heal sick kids throughout the Children's Miracle Network thing, and we play video games, live streaming, and try to get people to donate towards that. So overall, it went well, I believe. My part, like I said, I did the 12-hour first leg of it, and I was pretty good after that. I was done. I was finished. I can't sit here and play games forever like that. I think I ended up having some technical difficulties with my PC and the game that I was playing, and so I think I've got those fixed now, and I want to go back to playing that game. I was playing one of the Tomb Raider, one of the newer ones, or maybe one that came out in like 2013. It was pretty good. Anyway, moving on. I want to talk about grief a little bit, and why I started this podcast and how I expect it to evolve over time. So recently I was getting close to having some of these like borderline nightmares again, coming back, and some intense dreams, which spurred the idea for this episode and this discussion with Steven of DreamHerbally, and to promote dream work all around. Dreams can be important for those with mental health issues, and having the right tools can help either dissolve or resolve past or current issues, or certain blockages, or that are on our road to recovery. Like, we have energy within us, and that energy can get blocked somehow and sometimes manifest in our dreams, like what, things we need to take care of. So, so I just want to make sure that I point out that this discussion is about dream work. It's not necessarily about dream work itself, but it is about, the process of dream work. And normally, just like with therapy or anything like that, it's in like a closed group kind of discussion, not a group, but between you and a therapist, similar with dream work. You talk to someone who has the knowledge and has studied this intently to know how to navigate it. And like, basically we discuss, we do discuss dream work and how it's not like an interpretation of a dream, but to help the dreamer understand more about what their dreams are telling them by using the different tools that they've learned. And just like a therapist has tools they've learned in university or in training to be able to help others by learning about symptoms, etc., the same is true here. So it's not just someone telling you what your dream means, but helping you figure out what you believe they mean. So like, no ideas are ever planted in dream work or during dream work. Another quick note is like, well, these are the main tools, and I've asked Stephen in the past to kind of go over this a little bit so that I can kind of give everyone a heads up about the discussion. Is I asked him, I was like, what are the basic tools that are probably used during during this discussion that we use. And he said, one, you go through the dream and identify your top associations with each prominent person, symbol, thing that comes up. And then two, go through the dream and ask if each prominent person, symbol, or thing was a part of yourself. And if so, what would it be? And finally, three, look at what have been your main energy blockages in the time leading up to the dream, and see if any of 1 and 2 resonate as being relevant in that context. So that's what we did during this discussion, and it really helped out a lot. Because like I said, it's not planted. It's not someone telling you what a dream means. It's someone helping you work through the whole process of everything leading up to the dream, what you've been dealing with, and then what some of the like symbols or people that you've saw in the dream that you came up and figuring out if those things are actually a part of you yourself, like you are manifesting them, or those things are manifesting in your mind to play out whatever that blockage is, and figure out where to go from there, So now, before getting into the discussion about the actual dream work that you're about to witness in this episode, I'd like to quickly plug Stephen and his wife's music. They have both worked together over the last year or so to release a full-length music album called Moonstack. And you can check it out. I will put the link in the description to the episode. And let's see. Yeah, and from there you can learn or hear what kind of music they've created. So I think I've listened to some of it, and it's very different than what I normally listen to, which lately I haven't been listening to much music. But I am a big music head, so I have a wide variety of stuff that I like to listen to when I am listening to, and this was very different than all that. So it's very interesting. So you got to check out Moonstack, and it's the idea of making music is something that really resonates with me, especially as it's kind of an inspiration, because I've always wanted to make my own music and had just over the past 30 something years have never, pulled the trigger and actually tried to create. I've got all these instruments here, guitars and little drum thing and bass guitar and all this stuff and recording equipment and mixers and you name it. I could definitely create music if I really, really wanted to. I just haven't, I guess for the same reason I'm not pushing out these podcast episodes as frequently as I used to. It's just been a lot on my plate lately. Work has been busy, lots of computers to fix. You'll hear a little bit about that in this discussion with Stephen. And Yeah, it's just things have been stressful. Oh, but the grief thing, getting back, I totally skipped over that. The thing I think was getting to me during the dreams, and this is already months ago, and I've had lots of dreams since then, but I think a lot of it stems from my grief that I think that I may have talked about briefly in the past. I thought I had kind of worked through a lot of that, but apparently not. And coming up tomorrow, actually, is the oh shit! Like I forgot how many years it's been since it's almost 10. It'll be 10 years, because in 2013 is when I lost my dad. Tomorrow is the 10-year anniversary. So I think a lot of things building up to this point have not been fully grief driven. But I have been feeling it, and I have been feeling off, even though I've made so much headway in the past couple years with my healing journey, getting off of all those crazy medications that I was on, using psychedelics to microdose to get my neural pathways regenerated and all that. But it's been a lot. Like, life is a lot, and life is hard, and it takes work to get where we want to go. And I don't discourage anyone from doing what they need to do to heal, as long as you're doing something, maybe. And I don't even want to say that, because it's okay to not do anything if you don't want to or can't seem to get out of bed. I remember those days. I was there for many years, actually. Like, I could not get out of bed. I did not want to deal with the day. I didn't pay my bills. I got in a huge amount of debt. I just didn't pay attention. If it wasn't for my wife, Rachel, like trying to keep the food on the table and stuff for my kids and all that stuff like this. Yeah, it's just a big mess. but I'm doing good now. I'm doing well now, but it's still a struggle sometimes, and sometimes it's difficult to want to do the things that we need to. But anyway, I don't want to keep rambling and tangent on this whole thing. I want you to hear this episode. I want to push this out. I want to get on with the next episode, and I hope to have it out by Christmas. It's going to be tough, though. Like, it's been tough getting this episode edited, and we have exactly 1 week and 3 days, so like 7, 8, 9, 10. We're 11 days from Christmas. If I can get the next episode out in the next 11 days, yeah, I'll be pushing it. If not, you'll hear it in the beginning of the new year, hopefully. And like I said about the evolution of this show, like, I don't want it to stay the same. You know, like, when it started out, I was pumping out episode after episode. I was doing a lot of stuff, and that was my ADHD and my manic kind of do everything, get it all done, go, go, go. And if you look at the quality of some of those episodes, you can tell that I really was just kind of racing through the whole thing. So, like, I want to do better. I want the show to evolve over time, and I want, just want it to be what it is and to evolve and progress. So yeah, anyway, everybody, thank you for listening to this episode. I hope you enjoy listening and learning about dreamwork with Steven. I hope the audio quality sounds okay. If not, let me know. I think you can post comments and all that on Spotify, I think, and other places. So please leave me reviews if you can. Help me to keep wanting to do this, because sometimes when I don't hear any feedback, I sit there and I think, what's the point? Nobody's listening to this anyway. So, but I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to go into the negative or the dark. But please, if you do enjoy this show, I would really love to hear some nice feedback, even if it's negative feedback. I don't even care. Just something. Tell me something, people. Anyway, thanks for listening to the Wormhole Manifest Podcast. And now on with the discussion with Steven from DreamHerbally and Moonstack. So go check out his new album. Yeah, it's awesome. All right, we'll see you later at the end of the episode, and then hopefully on to the next one. In the meantime, everybody be safe out there. Be kind to each other. Happy holidays, whatever you're celebrating, whatever your belief is. I just want everybody to be nice to each other. Okay. Enjoy. All right, so let's get going. I'm glad you are here to help me kind of go through some of this stuff because it's been like weighing heavily kind of on me lately. So yeah, so what do we got to do, man? Like, how do we go about this?
Yeah. When you had shared in Discord there about some of the dreams you were having, it seemed like, there was um, a lot of potential to work with some of that if you wanted to. And um, like I've said, normally it's kind of a very personal thing, like a session is confidential and all that. But, in the spirit of your um, authenticity and kind of openness, that you're embodying with the podcast, and we agreed to, um, go through it a little more publicly. And I know that since that point, you also mentioned you've been having some other heavy dreams beyond the one you initially mentioned. So first, I'd probably want to, confirm which one you'd like to start by getting into. Usually, like with a dream, we've done these sessions before, but with a dreamwork session, um, it can take some time with one dream to really get into it in a deeper way. So, do
Yeah.
you feel like offhand which dream you're most interested in getting into?
I think probably that first one that we were talking about in Discord, and I have it pulled up here. I kind of copied and pasted it into some notes. And I guess for the sake of the audience, like we can, you know, kind of tell everybody what we're going to be doing here. Like um, like you said, I've been having some pretty intense dreams lately, and like I said, they've been kind of weighing heavily on me lately, and just wondering what's going on. But with your background and with the studies and the work that you do, it seemed to kind of align perfectly with like the previous episode that we recorded, and I had you on. We talked about DreamHerbally and the Dream Tea because I was wanting to work on some dream stuff to begin with, and then you had that project that you were doing for your class, and then I was like participating in that, and I just it was I had like a few of those profound moments where I was like, oh, I didn't really see it like that, and if you want to describe like that what you do again, like with the dream studies and like how it may pertain to like use of psychedelics or just personal growth in general. Um, you know, yeah, like we
Mhm.
kind of tell everybody what that background is on that, and then we can dig into the actual dream that I had most recently, and how it kind of affected me. So like
Sure.
you know,
Yeah, sounds good. So yeah, for the background, it's basically like I don't see myself as a dream interpreter or anything like that. Like I'm not trying to tell you what your dream
right,
means. Um, Rather, I'm trying to use a few techniques and whatnot to help you arrive at your own kind of intuitive understanding of what your dreams are telling you. My perspective is that really only I can have speculative ideas and maybe even informed speculative ideas about what your dreams are telling you, but my perspective is that really only the dreamer can know what a dream is communicating, because it's speaking your language, the language of your subconscious. Your higher self communicates with you, and that's all you. um, so sometimes these techniques kind of jog sort of like intuitive memories, and help you make meaning of it. But ultimately, it's you making that decision. And the aspect that pertained to psychedelics, that we kind of went through before, my project when I was studying this stuff was kind of looking at, if I work with people who have had psychedelic experiences, um, I find psychedelic experiences tend to show us things that sort of pertain in a loose sense to our energy flow and show us where we might have energy blockages. And I find from experience anyway, I don't want to say this is the case 100% of the time, but it might be from what I've seen. Um, Dreams are also showing us about our energy flow, our energy blockages ultimately, and including tactical applications of how we might navigate clearing those blockages and improving our energy flow. So the kind of hypothesis going into that project we did was, can these two modalities be used together? Can a psychedelic experience show us
Yeah.
where we might be stuck, what might be a prominent thing for us to work on, and then that dream work following that experience could help with actually integrating the experience and applying it in daily life. And with a small sample size that I had worked with in that project, that turned out to be the case for everyone. So I don't want to say it would always play out that way 100% of the time, but it seems to be at least the norm among a qualitative sample. Here, I don't think there's any psychedelic experience that I'm aware of anyway that was kind of showing you these things. But yeah, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm going into this thinking that it's just straight up dream work independent of anything like that.
Yeah, and it may like have some other thing. I mean, so I just wanted to bring up the psychedelic part because that's what was that part of that project you were doing, and that I was a part of, and even though we worked, I think even during the project, it wasn't necessarily anything that had to do with psychedelics. It was just the dreams that I was having, and and whatnot. But yeah, cool. So yeah, I messaged in Discord about this really intense dream, and it was very, and that's why I wanted to do this and get you on here and we can talk about it because like you said, it is like this. My mission is to be open and honest with anybody, with listeners, and share experiences in hopes that it may help someone else, who may be having some mental health issues or things like that. And I remember discussing with you in the last episode how many years ago, now it's already like maybe 4 or so years ago, the issues I was dealing with were, I was struggling like daily, everything was very agitating. And I think I even mentioned the thing about like, the a clear indicator to me is like when I'm starting to struggle, small tasks become very difficult. And then I get like flustered at simple things like loading the dishwasher. Like I remember, mentioning before, I was like, man, I'm putting dishes in the dishwasher and I'm like just irate. I'm like furiously angry at like these dishes. And I don't know where that was stemming from. But like I had worked through that and it got to a point where I was like, I was doing all kinds of stuff. I was doing meditation, and I started microdosing with psilocybin and got off of a bunch of medications that I was on, and I worked through all these different things. Worked through like a lot of my losses, from like all my family members that I've lost and things like that. And I got to a point where I was like happy to do things like the dishes, like I'm like putting dishes and I'm like, oh yeah, it's no big deal. I can do this. Like, and other things like I can go into Walmart and not freak the fuck out and like run out of the place like a lunatic, like I felt good about myself. But in the last like 5 or 6 months, or more so probably in the last two, that feeling of that anger at loading the dishwasher started manifesting again, and I was like, oh man. And also kind of like around the same time as I started having all these really intense dreams, because several years ago when I was at my worst mental health, like the dreams, I wouldn't even remember having like what the dream was about, but I would wake up in like a panic and like almost be going into a straight like uh, panic attack or an anxiety attack from whatever had happened in my subconscious or my dream. Like it scared me so bad that like, and it could have been like PTSD type things or whatever, but like I don't want to get to that point again where that kind of stuff is happening. So I'm like, what do I got to do to work on myself better?
Yeah, yeah.
And so when I had this dream, and I'll describe it, and I can't remember how we go about it, but you remember reading about it in Discord when I posted, but maybe I can give some more details, and then we can work on it, how what using whatever tools you have. Um,
Yeah. So I don't necessarily remember much of it. It was a couple weeks ago, and
right, right.
that I think regardless for anyone that's going to listen to this, it would be useful to recap it. And honestly, when we do these things, like the more detail, the better. Stuff that might seem insignificant to you, or if you remember it, it's worth including.
Right.
But what I like to do prior to getting into the dream, and you've started to do a little of this with giving the background, is talk about, where, when you look at your own energy flow, and kind of what might be blocking you in daily life, stressors, things that, when you worry about things, what do those things tend to be? What's on your mind, when you're in states of tension or stress? It can be helpful to kind of go over some of that before even getting into the dream. And I just like to have that
Okay.
context when I'm listening. So, would you say that there's anything else that comes to mind when, if you're just kind of feeling stressed out, you're doing maybe some mundane task like the dishes or whatever, and you're feeling stressed? If you were to kind of go inward and look at, like, okay, what am I stressed out about? Even if it's not in that moment, if you're just kind of lying in bed at night and thinking back over where you're at, that day or that week or something. Are there things that come to mind that have been kind of stress inducing thoughts or areas of your life lately?
Well, yeah, absolutely, and that's something that I had thought I had gotten to a point where I was able to like identify those things, and then like kind of, whether it's through meditation or whatever, like work through some of that, or even like a macro dose of some, psychedelic. Like I would find myself, confronting a lot of these things and realizing that, oh, it's not that big of a deal. I was worrying about nothing, but I tend to forget about the energy aspect of it, and that was something that helped me quite a bit in the beginning of this whole journey. I guess going on like 4 years now. Um, is like thinking about those things and being aware and being, using mindfulness throughout the day, of, even not just thinking of the word mindfulness, but like when something starts to bother me or whatever, doing exactly what you said, kind of like looking inward and being like, where does this root, where does it stem from? And how can I trace it to there to kind of, explain it to myself or relieve some of that tension or stress. And but yeah, lately I think the major stressor in my life um is mostly financial, and I think to myself, or tell myself, like there's not much I can do about it, like why stress about something that you can't do anything about? It's out of your control. So, but there are things that are in my control. um I'm not sure if that really manifested in the dream, so to speak, but I think the main thing that happened that clued me in was that I guess I'm always trying to fix things, and I remember mentioning that, and that was a big thing. And when I describe the dream, I'll cover that part. But yeah, it's like I feel like, why should I always be trying to fix things? Like, and it's like, whether it's my customers' computers, like for the audience, I own a computer repair shop, and people bring me stuff, and I have to troubleshoot it and figure out what's going on, and then make a quote to repair it, whether it's swapping out parts or reinstalling the operating system or whatever, and it's just, it doesn't really stress me out to figure these things out. Every once in a while, one task or job will be more difficult or a pain in the ass than another job. Some things come in and I'm like, oh yeah, an easy fix. I got this, and then it spikes my dopamine and I'm like, I'm going to get this knocked out and return to the customer, and then make my money, and so it's like, but at the same time, I'm like, I'm trying to help people, so I'm like, sometimes I kind of screw myself out of making money by giving like free tech support essentially, and it's like, that is a small aspect that weighs on me a little bit, where I'm like, I'm trying to fix things and I like helping people. Um, on a side note, I had kind of a deep experience last night while listening to one of the Duncan Trussell podcasts, and I think he was interviewing. It was one of the episodes from A Midnight Gospel, the animation, and he. It was I wasn't watching the show, but I was watching the podcast that the show was based on for that particular episode with Damien Eccles, who does the magic stuff and all that, and spent time in prison and whatnot. And something blew my mind about ego, and how people experience like ego death or whatever in like a psychedelic journey or trip or whatever. And I realized that I the same analogy comes back to me. I can't help anyone if I don't help myself first. And I've been kind of ignoring myself lately. I've been, how can I help others? Like, if the analogy is like, if you're on an airplane and the oxygen mask drops from the ceiling, they stress put your mask on first before you try to attempt to help anybody else, because if something happens to you, you can't help anybody. So I think that it keeps playing over and over in my head. I'm like, I need to do more for me. And I think that's what, like, by having you here to talk about this dream and stuff, maybe I can get some insight into where I'm, so that maybe that's a stressor. Maybe that's a stressor, is I'm thinking that I'm not really taking care of myself as good as I could be. And, so
Sure.
hopefully that kind of,
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, two kind of prominent things there. The idea of financial stress, and then the whole idea of, feeling like,
is there a way you could turn your audio up a little bit or closer to the mic? Just quick note.
yeah, how's that? Is that better?
Yeah, that's good.
Is it? Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, no problem. So yeah, you mentioned financial stress. You mentioned the idea of feeling like you're always kind of needing to fix things, and maybe not always feeling good about that being such a recurring role you're playing in life, and then relatedly, the idea of, if you are going to be kind of doing things for others, needing to um, be helping yourself first, essentially, to be able to even do that effectively. Um, would you say that there are, on the financial stress, would you say that there are any circumstances specifically going on? I think it was a couple of weeks ago, maybe, when you had this dream. Were there any circumstances specifically going on at that time that may have prompted financial stress to be worse than usual, or things you were worrying about, money, pertaining to any life events?
Um, Along that line, I would say that, like, I guess because of the financial issues, I decided to take out a pretty large loan around that time. So about 2.5 weeks ago or so. And what it is like to consolidate other debts. And so I actually felt kind of good that for one, I was able to qualify for a loan, because with my bad credit and stuff, like you know, but I took out a loan a year ago, and I made the mistake of buying some, investing in some crypto, and ended up kind of getting the rug pulled out from under me. And I was like, oh shit, why'd I do that? All my friends told me not to, and I still did it. And I'm like, why don't I listen to people? Like,
Mm.
so this time I took out the loan to pay off that previous loan and a bunch of other like credit cards and random things that have come up. It's kind of like the opposite. I was feeling pretty good. I was like, I'm starting to get my financial situation. Like I'm painting a picture, or creating a roadmap to get to the destination where I want to be, where I'm debt free and I can do some things like buy a home eventually and whatnot. It's just, I don't know if that was like part of the stressor, was like just having to make sure and like look through like everything to make sure when I got the loan that I was going to pay the right things, and not have like, you know, numbers kind of stress me out to begin with. Like, just when I'm looking at a bunch of numbers on a sheet, and I'm like, oh my God, what is this? mean, especially if there's like words involved, like I got a letter from like a collection agency and it had a bunch of verbiage on it that I didn't understand. I'm like, I don't, I'm not a lawyer, so like, so yeah, the financial thing, I think it was a stressor at that time. But at the same time, I maybe felt like I was doing something to kind of get a jump on fixing things again, fixing
Yeah.
things in my life,
Yeah.
so.
Okay. And then the idea of always, feeling like you're needing to fix something, and uh, but yet maybe you don't feel like you're fully on top of your own self in this way. Like, I think you used the phrase "fixing yourself" or something like that. Are there certain areas of your life that stand out to you as, you wish things were more in order, or you were more on top of, or you don't necessarily feel are fixed currently, that feel most prominent to you? And particularly a couple of weeks ago, around the time you had this dream, were there, do you think, any areas then that would have been standing out?
um I'm not sure really. Like, I mean, I know that it was a couple weeks ago. Well, it was probably like a month or two ago. A lot of people in Discord been talking about like doing the cold shower thing and doing meditation and kind of keeping each other uh, in check. Like having a buddy system of people saying like, just posting some people in there on like day 60 something of doing like either some yoga or meditation in the morning and cold shower and all this stuff, so I'm like, well, I'm going to start doing that. I'll take a normal shower and then I'll see how cold I can get it,
Yeah.
and while doing like some breath work. And so I've been doing that for several weeks now, and that's good. I feel really good once once I'm get out of the shower. I'm like, wow, the breath work and the cold, it really, you can't even tell it's cold. I'm amazed at like how you can kind of shut off that reaction to the cold. And it's not
Right.
really the cold water itself. And it's something I've learned from like all you guys and my friends in Discord that are like talking about this stuff. It's like, you're not like, your body may feel the intense, you know, change in the temperature, but it's really your reaction to it that matters. Like what does your brain want to do when all of a sudden it's hot and it goes to cold? I think of the old days when somebody used to flush a toilet in another part of the house, and like while you're taking a hot shower, all of a sudden it's freezing cold. You're like, oh my god, like, but that's
That's
your
the old
reaction.
days. That still happens in my house now.
Really? Well, I don't have. I mean, it's me and my wife and my kids come over on the
Yeah.
weekends and stuff. So like, we're never showering at the same time or whatever. But used to be just like you turn on kitchen faucet while somebody's in the shower or whatever, and
Yeah.
and it's like, oh my god, it changes. But yeah, like the reaction, I think, is what. And I was talking to my wife about it the other day or yesterday maybe, and she was like, I've known about that for years, and I'm like, I guess I knew about it, but not just the thinking about like anything, like if you touch something hot, you can jump back and be like, oh my God, that was hot, because you were not expecting it. And I think that's the thing. It's like, if you always expect the unexpected, or get to a point where you like could touch something hot on accident and then pull away and be like, what is my reaction to this? Yes, it's hot. It hurts, but am I going to freak out?
Yeah.
No, Am I going to
Yeah.
get angry at
No.
everybody else in the house because I did something to myself? I mean, that would most likely be something that would be used to describe me like 10 years ago,
Mhm.
like get irate and pissed off and throw things and break things and, but it was me. It was my fault. Why am I taking it out on everybody else?
Right. So kind
Uh,
of sounds like a acceptance versus resistance sort of battle, maybe going on. Like Wim Hof says, go toward the cold, right? Like in terms of
yeah.
the cold showering or ice baths, like if you mentally are in full acceptance, it almost becomes like an embracing of your circumstance,
Yeah,
that,
exactly.
you're not resisting it. And honestly, like, I mean, I cold shower pretty much every day at this point after my normal shower. And I find that makes a huge difference in terms of, how tolerable versus like annoying it is. If I'm mentally going toward it, it's not bad, and you adjust pretty quickly. And if I'm kind of like, I'm not feeling this today, I'm just doing it because I want to feel like I did it, and sort of tensing my body and resisting it. Um,
Right.
it's worse. It's more of an annoying thing that way, and I do feel like that. Is analogous to a lot of things in life. Um, so yeah, that the anything else you would anything else that comes to mind?
I know that like when we discussed like I don't remember when the episode was you were on. It was like I think it was around beginning of the year last year or something like that. But like, and I had described like how meditation helps. All these things I have been doing helped get me to a point where I felt really content with like a lot of things, and I think that's something that has been kind of slipping because I
Mm,
haven't been doing regular meditation. Like I'll do like some breath work if I start to get anxious or some anxieties coming on. I'll remember that like, okay, if I just sit here and do some breath work for a few minutes, then it'll help it subside. But like I think in the back of my mind, I'm thinking like, am I just doing this, using this tool to help get me through this situation? And then I'm going to forget about it. And then whatever was bothering me, and instead of digging into the anxiety or what was the trigger for it, I'm like using the tools I am to get through without to help prevent having an anxiety or panic attack. And then I'm moving on like maybe too quickly after that without actually embracing what was it that was the trigger, and
mhm.
maybe I'm not like dealing with those triggers as well as I was learning to a couple years ago when I started this whole process.
Yeah,
um,
sure. Okay, so there's another thing, and before getting to the dream, is there anything else that feels prominent in terms of the idea of fixing yourself, or um, like the types of stressors that have been on your mind?
um,
It's okay if not, just like to be
yeah,
kind
I'm
of
not, I'm
relatively
not,
comprehensive.
it's like I
Really.
know I think that I know that there is, but maybe that's why I'm having these dreams because I can't quite see what
Mhm.
I can't get to
It's
that
under the
root.
surface.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like I
Okay.
feel like there's definitely something there. There's something coming. I almost feel like I need to be better prepared for whatever this thing is that is coming in either into my life or about to happen or something like that. And it's weird that I haven't felt like this in a very long time.
Mm.
When I was younger, I would have these feelings all the time, and then something would happen, and it'd be like, oh shit, that's probably why I felt like that. Like somebody like a death or something in the family.
Yeah.
And then I'd be like, oh, that's I don't know, maybe the cosmos is speaking to me, and telling me you need to be ready because something is coming, and I'm just like,
Hmm.
I don't know what do
Sure.
I need to do? What is it? So
Yeah. All right. So let's maybe then get into the dream, and if you could just kind of describe the dream again in as much detail as you recall, and don't assume any details are insignificant, even if they feel that way at first.
okay,
Um, and I will probably just take a few notes here on my phone. So if you see me typing, I'm listening. I'm not
right,
over here
right.
texting. I'm
I
going to
gotcha.
write down things along the way that might I might want to come back to later.
Okay,
But yeah, if you're ready, go ahead and tell us about your dream.
okay. So I'm trying to remember. Like we mentioned that it was a couple weeks ago, but I'm glad I kept it. Wrote it down. I wrote
Mhm.
down as much as I could, and I'll try to elaborate on it. I find myself trying to sleep in sometimes because I don't fall asleep at night very easily, and when the morning comes, it's like my wife has to get up and go to work. She kisses me goodbye, and you know it's like I love you, goodbye, and then I go back to sleep. So that morning I did that, but it seemed like okay. So I was trying to sleep in, but I kept having what I wrote down here was I kept having these disturbing dreams. I don't remember all the ones that I had, but it seems like immediately when I fall asleep, I start dreaming like after my wife leaves for work. So it's around 8:30 in the morning. Um, and then so I kept having the disturbing dreams, and it was early that morning, but that's not what we're going to discuss is those dreams anyway. I didn't get to go back to sleep at all. So later that day, I decided to take a nap. And then that's when the worst one hit me that I was shook from, um, and it was like the worst one I had in a while. So I was in this place in the dream. Okay. And there was all these computers, like almost like a repair shop or something. And all these computers were acting weird, like, and I guess I was trying to fix them, um, and like I just felt overwhelmed. I'm like, I remember taking like a box, like a computer tower, and it looked very weird to me. Like, and I was like, man, I've never seen something like this. It was pretty big, had all these weird components in it and stuff. And like I was moving the whole tower around to get looks at it from different aspects. And I was just like, man, and I'm like looking at all the other ones around the shop, or this, I guess it was a shop that I was in, and I'm like, they all looked really weird, and but a lot of them were on. There was like a bunch that were on and had monitors, and they were like showing like weird things on the screen and stuff, and it was very overwhelming. And then my mom all of a sudden was there, and it was almost like I was still in that shop, but the shop had like its own like little living room, and there was like a couch and a chair. And my brother Mark, who's passed away, he was sitting in one chair. My mom was in another chair, um, and she, I guess, went to the door and got this bit of mail that had just been dropped off by. I didn't see a mailman or anything, but somebody came to the door and gave her a letter, and the mail. And she gets mad when she opens the letter, and she's asking what it is, and for some reason my brother was like, yeah, I was wondering the same thing. Like I don't know if he like had saw like what she was holding or whatever. And so it was kind of confusing. I was like, why, how does he know about this letter? What is, it just came in the mail, it just got dropped off. My mom saw it for the first time, but he was saying that like, I'm, wondering the same thing. So she shows me the letter, and I say, well, it's probably somebody trying to sue me, because my life sucks, you know, and so she grabs when after I say that, she grabs with um, she grabs the center part of my head with her thumb and forefinger, and like she's squeezing and pinching in between, right above my nose, with her thumb and forefinger, and yeah, she's pinching me really hard and on that little meat just above the nose in the center of the forehead, and it hurts. Like I'm feeling it. I'm feeling this sharp pain or pinch right in the center of my head. And I yell at her, get the fuck off of me, and leave me alone. Like don't like, and I felt this intense anger at her for hurting me. And then I yell her to get off of me. And then I immediately realized, okay, that's not how I should behave. So I calm down like almost instantly, and I tell her, if she, oh no, like before I calmed down, I yelled at her again, and I said, if you don't let go of me, I'm going to lose it. I'm going to lose my shit. I'm going to kill you. Like very angry. And then, you know, I calmed down, and then I told myself, oh my God, that was terrible. That was wrong. I shouldn't have done that. I tell her that I won't do anything if she just agrees to let go of me. I will calm down, and we can make a deal if she lets go. I'm not going to hurt her. I'm not going to do anything. And then, so she does, and she lets go of my forehead, and I can still feel that pain in my forehead. Um, and so I turn around and I sit like at this desk where that big computer was, and there was like, and still I can see screens and other things. And it's all very overwhelming. And I turn around at this desk that I'm sitting at, like in this chair, and my dad comes out of nowhere, comes up behind me, and he puts his hand on my shoulder. And I don't think he even said anything, and I don't even think I saw him. I just felt that it was him, and he was putting his hand on my shoulder, and I just held my head down. I dropped my head down, and I started crying. like, because it was so intense, all of it, the pain from the forehead, my mom, pinching my forehead. Um, and then, oh yeah, so that's when here's the kicker. I'm looking at one of these computers that's on this desk, and then I say to my dad while I'm crying, I spend all my time fixing shit, but I can't fix me. And he starts laughing, you know, while holding on my shoulders, like both shoulders now, I think. And he's just laughing. And then I woke up, and like I woke up and I felt, very emotional and kind of distressed, and I still felt a pain in the center of my forehead. Like, what is this? Like, you know, what is going on? And that's when I was like, I think a few minutes later, I'm like, man, like I started kind of, you know, coming out of it and waking up fully. And then I went and posted about it in Discord and in the Dreams channel. And I was like, and I asked you, I was like, what do you think, man? Because it really threw me off. I hadn't had anything that I remembered so clearly like that. And to note that all three people, the other people in my dream, were my mom, my dad, and my brother Mark, and they have all passed many years ago. And so that's one of those things with the loss, that I've been dealing with over the years and struggling to, come to terms with, because not just my brother Mark, but I've lost two other brothers on top of that, and countless like friends and other family. So it's like loss has been a very permanent, or a big thing in my life that I've had to deal with.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
So yeah, that's I'm
Sure.
trying to think back if there was any more detail other than the room and the setting, like, and my mom being kind of on the other side of the room and getting that letter and then bringing it over to me and showing it to me. But I looked at it and it looked kind of like, now that I'm thinking about it, like I mentioned, I got a letter like a couple days ago, and it was like it was like I'm being served to say that they were going to garnish my pay, but it ended up being like a false alarm type thing that I figured out yesterday. So like when I got that letter and read it like yesterday, I was like, holy shit. Or actually it was Monday. And then like, I'm like, it made me think of that dream when they got that letter and what is this? And I'm like, it's probably somebody trying to sue me because life sucks, And it was just, it's like, whoa, was this like coming around to something else? But yeah, anyway,
Yeah. There's a lot to work with there. I mean, I appreciate the amount of detail that you remembered and shared. Let's see, a couple maybe clarifying questions. The thing you just said about you got, so the letter from the collection agency, did that arrive after you had the dream or before?
yeah. Cause the
Oh,
dream I had was like maybe 2.5 weeks ago. It was on the, August 4th, and
yeah.
today's the 17th. So like the letter I just got, I guess today is Thursday, or wait, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, today's Thursday. I'm like getting lost. But yeah, I got the letter on like Monday, and it was bothering me all day Tuesday, and it wasn't until yesterday I started making some phone calls and trying to figure out what the hell this thing was. Like I called the local courthouse and they were like, "Oh yeah, that doesn't have to do with that." Like, and if that's all the information that they had, they can't do anything. So don't even worry about it. I'm like, then why the
Yeah.
fuck you send it out then? Like people with mental health issues don't need to see this kind of shit. It's triggering. It's traumatizing to get a letter in the mail saying that they're going to like take away your pay when most of my pay is already taken away. So it's like, you know, our system is set up to basically like not help.
Mhm.
but,
Yeah,
but
we could go off and have a separate conversation about that probably.
right.
The other question that comes to mind right away, when your dad was laughing, did you get the sense he was laughing because he just found something funny in a neutral way, or was it kind of directed at you, laughing at you? Was it laughing with you? Like what was the perceived tone of that?
I don't, maybe he was, I guess, kind of laughing at my reaction or something, like laughing that, not that I was crying, but like maybe even laughing that, you know, he felt like I knew already that, it was ridiculous, but it was also like okay to show those emotions, to to feel frustrated, to feel sad, or and to break down like that. Like it's okay to do that, to
Mm-hmm.
and I guess that goes with the energy kind of thing we were talking about earlier too. It's like you got all this energy, got to do something with it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like otherwise it just like builds up. And it's like
Yeah. Okay.
I don't think he was laughing at me though.
Mhm.
I don't think I got that feeling. I think I remember feeling like I was confused. I'm like, why is he laughing? This ain't a laughing matter kind of thing. But I didn't
Sure.
feel like it was at me, at my expense or anything like that.
Okay.
So,
Um, all right. So yeah, I see dreams as kind of like they often use our kind of subconscious associations, and they communicate to us by materializing our subconscious associations in different forms, almost like an analogy for things. So one thing I like to do is go through some of the prominent, people, symbols, things in the dream, and talk through what are your associations with them. Um, so maybe just starting from the beginning, and some, might just feel kind of like, uh, nothing too prominent comes to mind, and that's fine if that's the case. You just say so.
okay.
But starting with the computers, set up like a repair shop, trying to fix them. That almost feels like I could guess what that association with is, with your job. But
That's my job. Yeah.
um, yeah, and the feeling of being overwhelmed that was associated with that, and kind of the weirdness, or the not things not being immediately clear how to fix them. Um, what's your association with that feeling?
Um, that's what's like confusing to me, I think, because like I don't usually stress out about the only things that stress me out when in this job is that you know someone will call, so I have to first take the call, and then they say, can you do this or fix this? And so I kind of run through a basic idea of what may need to be done, and but I will take a look at it. I can't really do anything or give any advice without actually looking at it, so that gets them to bring it to me and set an appointment time. The only thing that really stresses me out sometimes is when I'm sitting there watching the clock, waiting for a customer to be to show up for their appointment time, you know? And when they don't, and it starts going like 5-10 minutes past their time, like it sometimes I have like customers that are scheduled. I schedule them for a reason because I don't want to overlap customers and have people showing up at the same time because I don't get a chance to actually give them the service that they deserve, and so like I set it up like that, so I start getting antsy when it's 10 or 15 minutes past that appointment time, and I'm like, I understand shit happens, people can't always be on time for everything, but like I'm like, you want your computer fixed or not? Like be on time so I don't, have to be standing there looking out the window waiting for them to get here because I work out of my home, my
Yeah.
garage is a workshop and I've converted it and I have all my test equipment and workbenches and spare parts and all that crap in there. Um,
Yeah. So, was there in the dream? Was there a sense of urgency, or being short on time, or whatever, as you were trying to look at fixing these things, and they were looking weird?
um, I don't I don't think so. It seemed like they were more symbolic because I didn't feel like I had to fix them. You know,
Okay.
I felt really confused. I guess I was overwhelmed at the amount of confusion at looking at these devices that I didn't recognize. Like, what is all this crap? Like, why does this computer look like this? Even is it even a computer? What is it? It's freaking shaped weird and it looks weird. And I'm like, maybe it was like an unknown kind of thing, fear of the unknown. Like I didn't understand what was going on. Why was
Mhm.
I even there looking at this stuff? So that was like kind of overwhelming in that feeling, I guess.
Got it. Okay. Um, then, how about your mom? When you think about her, what associations might come to mind? And it can be I know that's probably a very broad thing, but in terms of how you think about her now, maybe at this stage, now that she's passed, and maybe looking back, or uh,
I don't, and I feel kind of bad saying this, but I don't think of her that often. And I think of my dad all the time. I think of my brother all the time. I even think of my other brothers that I've lost. Like the first brother I lost was my brother John, and I was like 12 years old when he passed. So it's already been 30 something years ago. And I was like, I think of him occasionally, and I think of other friends that I've lost. And then my mom is like, that's just my mom. It's like, I know she existed and exists in my mind, but I don't, and it sucks to say, but sometimes when I think back or remember things, it's usually in a negative sense, like my mom could have been this or done this better, or, and I don't like that about myself. I think that I've forgiven her, or both my parents for things that my upbringing and all that kind of stuff. Like, so I, I, I remember when she passed, that was the most like clear headed she seemed, like a couple days before she passed, like when I had last seen her. And like, she seemed generally happy, probably because she was all doped up, So I was like, good. I'm glad she's happy. I'm glad she feels good. And, but she's in this hospital in a bed and stuff, but she was very positive for like one of the first times I've seen her like that. And I've only seen her probably a handful of times being very happy and positive that I can remember throughout my life.
okay, so you kind of have this sort of view that she was maybe more often negative. You say things like she could have done this, and even that you've forgiven her. Are there prominent things that come to mind, even if they're not necessarily specific events, but more kind of attitudes or common behaviors that you feel, you would have chosen if it were up to you, that this would have been different or that would have been different, or like things you've forgiven her for? Um, what are the nature of those kinds of things?
Just like all the like passive aggressiveness and things that were, like if you she was very, I guess she told herself that she was very religious or very Christian, you know, like, but she went to like three different churches, and I don't think she had the mental capacity to actually remember all the things like the teachings, but she like had this persona that she wanted to be a good Christian and whatever. But then she would turn around and if I was like watching a scary movie or playing a violent video game or something like that, she's like, if you don't act right, you know, you're gonna go to hell, and be punished and for eternity and all this stuff. And I'm like, whatever, like shut up. It's like, so I just kind of had that like, but there was like moments when she would just get so freaking mad and like blow up, but it didn't seem like the right time or place or even necessary, like one bit. And I'm like, why are you acting like this? It's like, kids don't act like this sometimes, but
Mm.
it's like weird because I found myself acting like that quite a bit when I was like going through my worst struggles, like flipping the fuck out on people, like yelling and stuff and whatever. Even at my wife currently, like we've been together almost 10, or yeah, this is 10 years now. We've been together, but our earlier part of our relationship in my previous relationship, the divorce, um, like I remember times when, it's like I was doing same shit my mom did, you know, just, and it didn't make any sense. It wasn't logical, and there's like a million other ways to handle a situation other than getting mad and, telling
Mhm.
people are going to go to hell and Satan's going to get them. I didn't say any of that shit because I didn't really believe it at the time. So I was like, but,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's one of those things that it's like now she's passed, and I think back on those times, and I'm like, well, I mean, I think it was during a mushroom trip that I was like, you know, my parents were not that educated, you know, and they just were doing the best they could with what they had, which was very little, and so I look back at it, I'm like, I can't blame them, for all their behaviors or actions or reactions, So I basically got to a point where I'm like, I have to let it go, because I don't want it to consume me. I got other shit to do. I'm like,
Mhm. Yeah. Okay. So in the dream, then, when your mom, remind me, your mom opened the letter. She was the one that was looking at it first. Is that correct?
yeah. She
Um,
opened the letter. She's like,
when
what is this? Kind of like
yeah,
irate.
and what was your you I'm wondering if I'm remembering this exactly correctly. You were not happy about her looking at the letter. Is that correct? Like, is that what kind of got you mad? Because you got mad in
I
the
don't
dream
think
there.
it was that. She opened the letter, and I guess she was asking me, what is this? Because maybe it was addressed to me, and maybe there was a little bit of like a resentment of her opening it. If it's for me, like, why are you opening my mail? Why you don't open
Yeah.
someone else's mail? Like, who knows what
Yeah.
it is? So like there might have been a little bit of that, but at the same time, I think I was annoyed. Yeah, I guess I was annoyed that she opened it and then was asking me in the tone or manner that she did, and that's what kind of set me off. And I was
Okay.
like, like, why do you care? Why are you mad at me that I got a letter? It don't make any sense.
Did
you
you
know
give it, given what you kind of anticipated the letter being, or something negative? You said it's probably someone trying to sue me. Did you have the feeling that you wished she didn't know about this, or you felt she might disapprove of what she saw, that kind of thing?
hmm I'm not sure. That's interesting, because I didn't think of that. Like, maybe because when I said that, like, probably somebody trying to sue me because my life sucks, like I was just like, I didn't quite even feel like I meant that. It was just a reaction and like a snide thing to say, but in my mind I was thinking it probably had to do with something financial, and maybe I didn't want her to know my business, or to be looking at me judgingly on how I'm handling my finances or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
which is kind of weird, because I guess I kind of thought of it, but like I didn't think of, like, or put the things together about like my financial stress in real life, and then like what would my parents think of how things are going now, because before they passed, I was doing like really well, had a great job, had just started having kids, and I had new vehicles, like everything was, that American dream or whatever, the false identity of, I have my shit together, like, and now my life is complete opposite of that. Like, I mean, I have cool stuff, but like, I don't have a new car. I had to like sell a bunch of stuff, everything is, sometimes feels like it's falling apart, but I'm like, whatever, that wasn't me before anyway. I didn't want to be that guy,
Yeah,
pretending I
sure.
have my shit together.
And then you talking about your parents here. How about your brother? And is there one, any especially prominent associations you have with him, and two, as it pertains to this situation, was there any of that sense of what would he think about this? Would he sort of judge it, or was any of that there with him?
um, I don't know. Like, he played such a small part,
Mm.
in the dream altogether, with just him. It was basically like him just making a comment on, like, oh, I was, wondering, about, what the letter was. Like, he had knew that there was a letter already, or the letter was coming or something, and so I was like, what is that? Is that, I don't know. It was kind of weird. I mean, I think about him quite a bit, and it sucks. Like, I don't get as like down or depressed about it, and I definitely still miss him, obviously, and I see him probably more, than anybody else that I've lost, like in my dreams and stuff. And so sometimes I'm see him in a dream, and it's like, oh, hey, there you are. What's going on? It's kind of cool. And I'm like, oh man, yeah, we miss you here, but I'm glad you're doing all right, kind of thing. And it's like,
Mm.
I've accepted, that he has passed. He's not here, but he is here. Because I
Yeah, yeah.
I feel like I see him all the time. I'm like, hey, there you are. Um, so
Okay.
maybe he was like wondering about the letter, like maybe he said that because maybe he was wondering about like what my reaction was going to be when my mom asked about it or something. I don't know.
Yeah. All right. So then you going back to something you said a minute ago, you kind of described how like your life might have looked a certain way on the surface, financially, when your parents or your mom at least was around last. Do you feel like that would have aligned with their idea of success, and was that kind of implanted in you through your parents, even if you don't fully resonate with that as success now? Do you think that was sort of like their idea of success in what they gave to you in that regard?
I I want to say yeah, like I want to say definitely, but I think in kind of a slightly canted or tweaked way, like I had this mentality that like in my mind I was going to not just be successful, but I was going to do everything that my parents didn't do or weren't able to do when, when I was little and when they were, my other siblings were younger and they were like trying to figure things out and provide for their family. Like I wanted to do all those things that they weren't able to do, or couldn't figure out how to do because I look back in a negative way sometimes and I'm like, man, they were so stupid, like everybody knows this kind of stuff, this is what you do. If you want to be successful in a career, then you have to like work hard and you have to do what others won't do. Like I felt like that was my fake persona, that I was putting this mask on to get through the day, which eventually led to my most ultimate demise. Was that I had done that for so long and I had convinced myself that you know I was doing what I had to do to be successful, when it was all an illusion.
Mm.
And when I lost all of the things that I had thought I had obtained through my success, it caused me to come crashing down and realize that wasn't even me the whole time. I was lying to myself, So yeah, I wanted not just to do better and be successful to show them, well, or to live up to whatever their expectations of me were, but I wanted to do better because I wanted to show them that, yeah, see what I did, kind of thing, like shove it in their face. Like I did all this on my own without your help, kind of thing. And I look back on it now and I'm like, man, that's pretty narcissistic and conceited and like whatever, But yeah, I that makes me think, because I wasn't even thinking of that aspect when the dream and all that was happening.
Yeah.
Um,
So do you feel like your parents, your mom's at least, idea of success is still kind of um, sort of ingrained in you to an extent, like even if not fully, like is it kind of hard to shake that in the back of your mind? Is does that sort of maybe play a
yeah,
role in
yeah,
yeah.
most likely, or even definitely, like that is something that it's like I don't think they had much expectations for me. So like whatever I did or accomplished, they were already kind of proud of. I think, I feel like, even if maybe they didn't show it as much, but like at the same time, it was me. I was the one thinking, like, I don't want to be like them. I'm going to do all this on my own and be my own success story. And then I'm going to show them what I did and then tell them, like, this is what I had to do. No thanks to you, in it with like an attitude. And it's like, that's not cool. Like, um, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
So the idea of wanting, and going back to the dream of wanting her to let go, when she grabbed your nose like that, and you wanted, you threatened her at first, but then said, well, I won't, I disregard that basically if you'll just simply let go. Do you feel like there's a sense of that kind of having a hold on you, um, and wanting to
oh,
shake it?
maybe so. like almost like she's not like physically holding on to me, but like holding on to it, like something that like I'm not able to let go of or something.
Yeah, maybe what I'm thinking there is maybe the idea of, her, what she would approve or judge,
Mm,
kind of having made enough of an impression on you as it goes with parents,
right.
over the years, that it could still be there in you. And, maybe underlying the kind of anger or frustration that you find yourself feeling, and maybe loosely associating that with the financial stress that this letter could have represented, is there this feeling of like, well, these ideals are there, and maybe they're not fully mine, maybe they're there from, something my parents have put in me, and I can't
Mm.
seem to shake that. um, does that resonate with you?
Yeah, yeah, it does. Like I more so in like a feeling, almost like it's hard to even describe. Uh, like I have this emotion where it's like when I think of my parents, you know, I may not say to myself in my head like, would they approve of this? Because I think like, what would they care, but I know they cared, and if they're out there in the cosmos and they're looking at me now, they're I know that they're proud of my growth and um everything that I've been trying to do to help myself be better, not just be a persona or not be successful in some way that I'm not even happy with. um I'm sure of that, but yeah, I think that maybe just something in my upbringing maybe kind of still in there that, like you said, like it's ingrained. So like maybe it's difficult for me to see, but I feel it. I feel like there's something that there was something that maybe they um, didn't even know or didn't not necessarily approve of, but like I don't know. It's hard to describe, but I feel it as an emotion, and it's I don't know.
Hmm.
Hmm. It's
And
very interesting though.
yeah, would you say, your dad's role in the dream? You've alluded to some associations with your dad already, but are there ways that, you look at your dad differently than you look at your mom in terms of these things? Would he have been playing a different role? Would he have also been judgmental of the situation, or would he have been more empathetic? Or, what type of association would you have with him as it pertains to these things?
Um, Well, I mean, like the reality of it was also, like I said, my parents weren't very educated, but they did the best they could. My dad was he when I was really young, there was times when he would like get mad or blow up at things, but for the most part, we had a good time together. He was always, saying goofy stuff or trying to be silly, and things like that. So that's that stands out to me, was that even during a hard situation, like he would, it seemed like he was doing his best to like put on this, not necessarily an act, but like trying to just be positive in general. Like things will work out, don't worry about it, that kind of attitude. And so like I think maybe when he was laughing in the dream, you know, maybe he was even, laughing at my reaction or my overreaction to like the letter thing and with my mom, and then she was pinching me, and maybe even laughing that he knew that I wasn't going to, even though I made an idle threat that I'm going to kill you, if you don't let go of me, he knew that I wasn't going to do anything, that I would make the right choice almost like. And then I turned around and then broke down, and then I think maybe he was trying to comfort me or something, and laughing the whole time because it was like, you know, I knew you were going to make the right choice or something. I don't know.
Mm.
But yeah,
Yeah.
we've always had that kind of connection where he was, being silly and, you know, somewhat supportive in his own way, even though he like wouldn't say like, yeah, I support you, good job.
Mhm.
It was just kind of a, yeah, you got it.
Yeah. So one thing then that I notice about this dream is your reaction to each of the roles that your parents played in this dream was pretty different. You responded to your mom's behavior with anger, basically. That triggered some sort of anger response in you, and whereas your response to your dad, like his presence there, kind of brought on some degree of vulnerability in you, right? You started crying, and you introspected. You basically expressed this vulnerable feeling of not feeling like you're not able to fix yourself, and it seems like there's a kind of maybe like meddling, judgmental approach on the one hand that's putting it, facilitating an anger response, while there's an empathetic lightening of the situation on the other hand that's allowing you to get more into like feeling the emotion rather than lashing out. I would then like and another dream work technique that I like is and sometimes actually do with a dream in its entirety is have someone walk through the dream and look at it as if every prominent person and symbol is a part of their self. What would that be? So this is kind of prompting me to go in that direction where, if your mom's role in this dream is a part of yourself, and your dad's role in the dream is a part of yourself, and your response in each case to each of them is a part of yourself. How does that look? Do you relate to that? Does that resonate with you? Is there a part of you that is kind of, and maybe it comes from your mom at some level, but is there a part of you that's kind of judging yourself, and you almost want to avoid and want to sort of like leave me alone, like don't get so involved here. And then another part of you that is kind of taking this lighter perspective on things and feeling like, okay, like we can have a softer approach to this, like things are going to work out. Does that kind of resonate with you? Do you deal with those two different voices and respond to them accordingly?
Now that like, and I totally forgot about that aspect that you mentioned about the dream work of looking at it as if, because we did that same thing in the last time we did that, and we discussed it a little bit on the last show, but like, I don't know why I completely forgot about that, but like, yeah, if I take those roles of everyone that was in the dream and apply it to like a part of myself, like, um, I do see it like my brother's part was very minimal, but like it was more like inquisitive, like curious, like, oh yeah, I was wondering about that too. What's going on? Like, kind of like, is there something going on that you're not dealing with, or don't want to deal with? And then my mom and that reaction, like my overreaction, like I've worked really hard over the last several years to not have that overreaction type thing, and my kids know it, unfortunately. The last time I had like a blow up kind of thing was when we were camping almost a year ago, at a cabin, and my kids got to witness it once again, even though they hadn't seen it in quite a while. Was like me just being dumb and blowing up and be like, fine, let's all just leave and go home, because nobody's having fun, overreacting like completely, like just ridiculous. And I look back on it and I apologize to him and everything, and I'm like, I don't want to be like that. Like, that's why I've been working hard on all this stuff, because I don't want to be that guy anymore. Like, so maybe that, like, that part of me that was blowing up at my mom for looking at the mail or grabbing my forehead, um maybe that's me looking at how I was, or how I'm trying to not be. And then of course the funny dad thing with laughing, and but at the same time showing comfort by putting his hands on my shoulders, could be that part of me saying that it's okay, man. Like, you're doing you're doing okay. Like, you're working this stuff out, and it's completely normal and natural to work out. Like, you don't like blowing up on people and getting so mad, and you've had anger issues in the past, but you've come a long way. So just look at that and be proud that you've come this far. Most people don't even get, a couple steps from where they were before they completely fall back onto their old habits and stuff. So yeah, like looking at all those roles and how if it was me looking at me and those are parts of me, then that does make a lot of sense. Um, yeah, that's interesting. I hadn't how I completely forgot about doing that aspect of saying like all these are part all these things are part of my subconscious, so like even the breaking down and crying and being emotional in the dream was like, you know my dad, I was comforting myself saying, you need this, you know maybe it's the energy thing. I'm not letting that, I'm not focusing or redirecting the energy how I should be in normal everyday waking life, so it's manifesting in dreams where I'm like, you know be super angry for a minute and then be like, no, it's okay. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, as it pertains to the energy flow idea, I feel like the way I tend to see this work is it's something then that's applicable that you can kind of take back and have an additional layer of information,
Hmm.
as that can actually be applied to your daily life. So I want to go back to sort of where we were at the beginning when we talked about your energy flow and try to, input this take on the dream and see if it resonates, see if
Okay.
it feels applicable. So,
Yeah.
thinking you gave the example of doing the dishes or, doing something relatively mundane around the house and you could find yourself feeling this type of anger. Like this is what came up when we were talking about stressors and energy flow. And um, like if we try on the idea that the dream is showing you, well, you have basically these two kind of contrasted voices in your head, not always consciously, often subconsciously, this could be. And one on the one side there could be a tendency towards self-judgment. You might feel frustration because you kind of have this ideal that's in you in some way that you maybe don't feel like you're living up to, and you could be judging yourself for that. And then on the other hand, there could be another voice that's basically more empathetic, more sympathetic, more caring, more kind of lightening things up and almost giving the vibe of like, don't be so hard on yourself. And one of those voices prompts an anger response because, that's self-judgment doesn't feel good. There could be a tendency to want to combat that with almost like a defensiveness or like a dismissiveness or like a kind of just get away from me. This doesn't feel good. Whereas the other voice is maybe allowing more of, giving yourself a break and allowing you to still be light through this. Like this situation doesn't have to feel like the end of the world. This situation, is just kind of something I'm dealing with right now, and I have the ability to laugh it off. And could the dream be showing you that when you listen to one voice or the other, you're going to get a different response in yourself. You're going to have either a more frustration, anger response on the one hand versus kind of giving yourself some grace on the other hand. Do you feel like that could be the dream's communication to you and sort of how you might apply that, in a day-to-day way is you get to choose which of those voices you're going to kind of give credence to it and listen to.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Like it's kind of like, it reminds me too of when you say two voices, it's, like when people have like you see in TV shows, they'll have like the little angel or devil on their shoulder,
Mm-hmm.
little cartoon, and like one of them's telling them to do one thing, that's supposed, I guess the devil's supposed to be negative or bad thing, like, yeah, you can do this, and then the angel's like, oh no, don't do that, it, I guess that it really that whole scenario has come from a realistic view that we all basically have these decisions to make in our minds, Like we have to, do what we think we need to do in that moment, depending on what the situation is. And I think a lot of times maybe we don't allow ourselves to do the thing that we need to do in that moment, because of whatever, like a self judgment or whatever. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That really, um, yeah, it makes me see the whole aspect of the dream. Cause like, I think when right after I woke up, I was so almost like it was like an overwhelming combination of like all of the emotions, like I still felt that anger that was initially in the dream, and then the sad like breaking down, and then even the part that was my dad playing the laughing, saying like it's gonna be okay kind of thing, and comforting myself, like everything all at once, like, and that's overwhelming when you can at first, and then
Mhm.
until you can kind of separate it and isolate the different emotions and be like, oh, okay, so yeah, it makes a lot of sense that maybe and I think that's what a lot of things, people with anxiety issues, and stuff like that, like I think they do get that overwhelming, like everything everywhere all at once. Yeah, quote that
Mhm.
movie here, plug. But yeah, like, and that it's difficult. It's difficult in that moment to get through that time right there in that present moment to come back and look at it. But I think it makes sense now. Like there's a lot of things I do need to deal with that I sometimes probably just ignore, or I used to a lot worse than I do now. But some things I'm just like, I can't do anything about it right now, so why worry about it? Or right at this moment, I'll get to it later, kind of thing, and push it off and
Sure.
procrastinate. But
Yeah, I mean, dreams that are really emotionally charged, people understandably sometimes kind of want to avoid them or not have, dreams that are as heavy or emotionally charged. And, um, the flip side of that is if we choose to say, go back to our original Wim Hof analogy, if we choose to go toward the cold, if we choose to kind of like not resist and instead we'll see, oh, there's something here for me,
yeah,
they can be the ones that are most um, applicable, and they're the emotional charge that comes with them is usually going to be connected in some way to emotions that we actually experience. And when we break them down like this, I feel like the goal is to take something from it that isn't just showing you something about yourself, but is going a step further and is giving you some guidance for your daily life going forward. So on the one hand, it's like, well, we could look at this and stop with, okay, like maybe I got this tendency to think of success this way for my mom or something, and it's like, okay, that could be informative in a way, but what do I do with that? And
right.
I like to take it a step further, and it's like, okay, when we start to get into our own energy flow and look at what is impacting it, that becomes applicable. So here in this case, it's like going forward, you can feel empowered, by having the knowledge that, all right, my energy flow may be a bit dependent on which of these voices I'm listening to, right? Like I
Yeah.
see that one has this result and I see that the other has this result. And that's kind of the message that I see like coming through,
Yeah.
and not in a way where I'm telling you where that's what it is based on your response and what resonates, with
Right.
you from the
No,
conversation.
definitely.
Um, that feels to me like the empowering aspect of dream work in this case, right? Like you can go forward and next time you feel angry, look at, okay, am I listening to self-judgment? Am I judging myself? Am I holding myself to some standard that might not even be my own, standard at some level? Um, and can I give myself grace here? Can I lighten up my view of this? Can I kind of zoom out from this situation and recognize that this isn't everything?
Yeah.
like that kind of thing. And
My
that would
wife
be the
says
type of
that,
thing.
you know,
Yeah.
shout out to my wife, Rachel. She's always saying like, you have to give yourself grace.
Hmm.
And I don't know why I forget it like all the time. You know, I don't like forget because I will tell myself, okay, yeah, you need to give yourself some grace here. But yeah, I kind of do forget it. Like I forget it when I need it. When I need it, when I need it in that moment, when I am having I'm struggling and I'm like, you know, maybe stuck going down that road, a train of thought of the negativity or the judgment or, you know, being hard on myself, like I will forget in that moment that like, okay, I need to step back. I need to step back and give myself that grace, you know. So I think that's important, and I need to recognize her for always saying that, and recognize that I am not. It's not that I'm not listening to her or you when you said that. Like it's like I legit like can't keep it in my head, and I don't want to say can't. Like that's another thing she says, quit saying can't or should, you know, and things like that. Like I got this bad habit of saying I should have done this, or you know, I should do this thing that I'm thinking about doing pretty soon that I probably won't ever get to, you know, like, so it's, you know, I'm trying to cut those words out of my vocabulary, but it's difficult to break habits, you know?
Sure.
So, but yeah, that makes a lot of sense with the,
I
how do I do that? How do I remember?
Yeah, well, I think one more thing about emotionally charged dreams is I think sometimes they, like our higher selves, use dreams that are going to feel more emotionally heavy when something needs to be a little more prominent to be remembered and used going forward. It's harder to forget something when it's emotionally charged, and
Right.
maybe like you're saying, this is kind of something that on some level but forget about, and maybe the reason you're getting a heavier emotional dreams is to kind of make more of an impact on your psyche, and so that you could remember it. Our higher selves are out for our greatest good, and so like when a dream comes in like that's an opportunity. um,
To etch that thing in stone so that it's not
right.
so easy to forget. It's
Exactly.
like, hey, you're not paying attention here, buddy. You need to get your shit together, you know,
Yeah.
and remember
Yeah.
this.
Right. And one last kind of question on the dream itself would be, is there anything that feels prominent and unresolved about it? Is there any aspect that you feel, like we didn't necessarily get at that you want to get at? I don't want to assume that something's necessarily closed before
Um,
you feel it's resolved.
I don't think so. I think that like that one thing that I remember was like when I say I spend all my time fixing shit, but I
Hmm.
can't fix me. Like I think that makes a lot more sense now because I'm thinking with the grace and everything and allowing myself to feel my emotions when it's, you know, when I need to, you know, just and flowing that and taking that energy. I think that's maybe um me telling myself that, you know, I'm not, I have, you know, because I talk about it all the time. I'm like, I want to help people. You know, I've been through so much in my life and I've worked on a lot of myself. I've gotten a lot further than I've ever thought it was possible, you know, with my mental health and everything. And I think it makes me take a deeper look and say, you know, maybe I'm not as far as I thought I was. I've still come a long way, but I still have a long way to go to get to where I may need or want to be, you know. And I think that's the glory of our life on this planet is the journey, you know. I don't know who said that, the quote where it's like it's not about the destination but it's about the journey, you know.
Yeah, and like let that be okay,
And
like
let yeah
the right that's where you're going with this, I think, and that's what the dream's showing you. It's like it's
yeah
it's
be
okay
content with the journey because, you know, and it's okay to have some, you know, some little pitfalls here and there or distractions or, you know,
Hmm.
whatever, but as long as you get back on track, you know. And I think I used that analogy of my brain when I was in that bottom of the bottle depression was that like once I started making new connections and forming new pathways in my brain, it's like I'm the kind of guy who goes from point A to point B the shortest route possible. Like I want to get to my destination, so I try to get there. But what I learned along the way is like it's okay to take a separate little journey here and there, like take a different path. Just see what's down that path. It's like and I started being like, wow, there's like a bunch of cool shit down here that I didn't see before. And I'm glad I decided to not try to go all the way, in a straight line. Like don't the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line, but you don't have to go in a straight line all the time. You can take some cool trips here and there and just see some cool shit because the world's wide open. The universe is wide open. There's a lot of cool shit out there.
Yeah, I like that perspective. But before we wrap up, I
okay,
will just share with you. I had this is like where this dream led is a little bit synchronous for me, in that I had my first bigger mushroom trip in a while last week, and I got a lot out of it. One aspect that I got from it was kind of along the same theme of being able to look at things in a much lighter way. Like I was having maybe little circumstantial things like a noise felt loud or something felt annoying while I was there, and the mushrooms just kind of bombarded these situations with really hilarious, like drawn out, complicated, crazy words. And it's hard to describe. Like I've never had a trip like this before. And I don't remember a lot of the words, but it would be like, I would have 2 seconds to start to get annoyed by this situation. And the mushroom would be like, nope, that's not annoying. It's funny. And like, the way that things were so complex, like complexly, I don't think there's a word, but complexly funny. They're funny in such a layered way. It was so unavoidable for me to think it was funny. And therefore it was so impossible to continue being annoyed. All I could do was laugh. And the implicit message that came through from this very clearly was any situation in life, I can just lighten up the way that I see it and choose to not be annoyed by it. If I'm going to look at it in just a lighter way and recognize that, this is not everything there is, like this is just like one little situation, it does not have to be annoying. And it was like, it's hard to put into words, but it was like the mushroom just threw a grenade at my annoyance every time. It was, and this lasted for like hours. This was like a huge part of the trip.
That's awesome.
So yeah,
man.
That kind of feels aligned with where this dream eventually led. So I figured I'd share it. But
yeah, definitely.
We have it in our power to change our perspective, right? And that's ultimately what it is. And we have a lot more power and control over our experience than it might sometimes seem when seemingly annoying circumstances are coming in and trying to interfere. We could just be like, nope, I'm going to take the lighter route and, have control over my experience.
Like when I'm loading that dishwasher and I'm like, what the fuck, man? I'm fucking always doing dishes all day long. It seems like I never get out of the kitchen. I can just be like, imagine myself in like a giant kitchen for dishes that go for miles, in every direction, and it's just you make like a cartoon or a comic strip out of it or something. And it's like, this is what my life is like. And, like
any
doing
funny
dishes,
spin you can put on it. Sure.
I used to blow up things, exaggerate when I was younger, somebody almost hit me with a car when I was skateboarding down the street when I was like probably 15 or 16 or something. And so like, I used to do this thing where like, imagine like a cartoon, like all of a sudden that car's going by, they almost hit me, but didn't. But then like a big like thing falls out of the sky, like a piano, or like a ton of bricks just lands on that car. And then I just kind of laugh it off. So same kind of thing.
Yeah. Just absurdly funny things. Like I don't remember, from in that state, I don't remember a lot of the words and they were way more complicated than this, but one that stuck in my head, it was like fiddle a swady dinks, like nonsense. And so now it's like something comes up in life, I'm just like, throw a fiddle a swady dinks at it, and it's like, not that annoying anymore.
That's awesome.
It can be the most absurd thing, and just find the humor in it.
Oh man. Well, thanks for giving me your time today with this, and just a quick reminder to everyone who listens that like this kind of thing, as you said, the dream work and stuff is usually a more personal thing. It's not like it's kind of like, it's like a therapy type thing. You don't go to a therapist. They're not going to be like, tweeting out everything that you say in your meeting or whatever. But in my effort to expose some of my, deep internal struggles and things like that, to show people that they are not alone. There are different avenues that people can go to find out more about themselves, or to try to, get help or learn more, and I think it's important that people know that I'm just trying to have my integrity, and show people I'm not just putting on a show with a persona that like, hey, I'm like a talk show host, hey guys, check it out. Like I do that sometimes because it's kind of fun, like when I used to introduce the show, I'm like, welcome to the Wormhole Manifest. All right, let's get going, and it's fun. It's funny, but not everything in life is funny. And I want to show people that I am trying to be truthful, and not just a goofy guy, goofy face.
I appreciate your, vulnerability to want to talk through this kind of stuff, out in the open, because of how it can help others. Like you're touching on stuff, topics that are deeply personal, and not always the kind of things that everybody's just, out there talking openly about. So that's cool. And hopefully, this can also show people, how dreams can be actually used to apply. They're not just, like nonsense happening in your sleep that is just kind of like a jumble of unintelligible thoughts. Like, when we actually kind of like become more fluid in speaking the language of our subconscious through, the different techniques that are available to us, like, we can take real tangible application from them. And that's like something I just want people all over the place to see when I talk about dream work. I hope that comes through. And I love working with, dreams, because it just totally reveals the intelligence of the dream state, and the higher self just comes through more and more.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like super interesting. Like I've always been interested in dreams in themselves, because I've always had these wild experiences with dreams. Like I used to go to work in the morning my last job, and we'd sit around and drink coffee, and I'd spend like 10 minutes telling people about all these different crazy wild dreams I had. And they just look at me like, what is wrong with this guy? And some of them are like, I never remember any of my dreams, and I'm like, it's because you're not like in touch with your internal, your subconscious. I just make up shit because I didn't know. But at the same time, I was like really interested. And ever since meeting you in the Discord and helping with that project and stuff, it's like, I'm like, oh, like I've always known deep down there's something to this, and people that try to write it off as not being, like you said, it's just all, they think it's all just, twisted subconscious gobbledygook or whatever, and it's like, no man, it's you talking to you, in there doing things, trying to show you stuff. So,
and this is like why DreamHerbally exists in the first place, is to help us have more awareness of our dreams, because they're actually useful. It goes beyond the adventure of it, although nothing wrong with having
and for those people that can't remember their dreams, like, that's a good plug to you. And I almost forgot, but like, DreamHerbally, that's your store online, your business. And I've tried it. It's delicious tea, man. Like the dream, I think it was the Blue Dream blend. I want to try some of the other ones too, though. So I need to get in there.
We have like 5 different ones total, but the Blue Dream blend is the one that's really designed to optimize his dream awareness. And that's the one that, got me as a cannabis user. I didn't remember my dreams very well, and kind of like got me my awareness back, and eventually got me lucid dreaming and having out of body experiences and all this stuff. So I in combination, I should say, with other practices like meditation.
Right.
But yeah, the idea is that it helps people become more aware of their dreams and empower them to work with that state. So
Yeah,
I mean,
because
anyone that's interested, that's listening, to any of this stuff, can reach me through DreamHerbally, either DreamHerbally on Instagram or dreamherbally.com. And I'm always happy to talk dreams with anyone that's into this kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Yeah, everybody check it out. Like, definitely support small businesses. I got a computer repair shop. Anybody need something fixed, come check it out. But I only do it locally. So I wish I could sell my services online somehow. I'd probably make a lot more money, but I don't want to be sitting there answering phones and walking people through things on how to like click a mouse, to click the start button. But yeah, man, thanks again. Trying to think if there's anything else.
Thank you.
I don't think so. I think we covered everything.
Yeah, good talk.
Yeah,
glad it seems to have gone somewhere. And yeah, you'll have to keep me posted on where your dreams go from here.
I'm gonna keep all this stuff in mind. Especially the grace thing. Something my wife. Yeah. My wife always said, like, you never thank me for anything, or like you never. I'm like, I do. I'm like, I'm appreciate everything. Like, I just. But yeah, all right. Everybody check out dreamherbally.com. Thanks for listening to Wormhole Manifest Podcast episode. I don't know what number this is, but we'll figure it out when we release it. All right. Peace out, everyone. Thanks, Stephen, once again.
Thank you.